Barron Trump, an 18-year-old teenager, has always lived under the massive shadow of his family, yet he often feels lonely within it. As the only son of Donald Trump, he's used to life in the public eye, where people have expectations of him because of his parents' fame and power. But what most don't realize is that behind closed doors, Barron has always longed for love and closeness, something he rarely experiences. Since childhood, he's witnessed the distance between his parents. Donald Trump, consumed by political ambitions and business, always put work first. Meanwhile, his mother, Melania, was constantly dealing with public scrutiny and media attention, leaving her with little time for her son. Despite the wealth and status surrounding him, Barron often felt like a stranger in his own home. One quiet afternoon in their vast mansion, Barron took a moment to reflect on his life. It felt like a staged performance. On the outside, his family seemed perfect, but he knew that was far from the truth. The relationships in his household were cold and distant, making him feel like just another shadow in an already dark space. With the weight of expectations from both his parents and the world, Barron started bottling up his emotions. He was tired of pretending everything was fine when it wasn't. Still, he knew he couldn't just act on impulse. He needed time to process his feelings. Instead of speaking out immediately, he decided to write them down, not just as a way to release his emotions, but also to prepare himself for whatever came next. That day, Barron wrote a heartfelt piece about his loneliness within his own family. He didn't just talk about the lack of affection, he opened up about the immense pressure and expectations placed on him. Even though his words were deeply personal, he never saw it as an attempt to ruin his family's perfect image. He just wanted to be honest about what he had kept buried for so long. What he didn't expect was the overwhelming public reaction. While many sympathized with him, others criticized both his family and his decision to speak out. Some accused him of seeking attention, while others felt that airing family struggles so openly was a sign of disrespect toward his parents. Back at home, Donald Trump couldn't hide his anger. At the same time, he knew his son couldn't keep living in silence, feeling abandoned. It hurt to see Barron's words laid out so plainly, but deep down he understood the pain behind them. Melania, too, struggled with her emotions. She didn't want their family to be caught in another public controversy, yet she couldn't deny that Barron's words forced her to face an uncomfortable truth. She had never truly been there for him the way he needed. Despite the backlash, Barron had no regrets. He knew he had done the right thing. He had spoken the truth that everyone in his family had tried to hide. For him, facing reality, no matter how painful, was far better than continuing to live in a world of pretense. Barron couldn't hold back his anger and frustration. He had hoped his father would understand how he felt, but the criticism just kept coming, making him feel like an outsider in his own family. He told his father that he couldn't keep living a lie. He was exhausted from pretending everything was fine. He pointed out that their family wasn't built on love or closeness, just a carefully maintained image for the public, not a real bond. Donald Trump stayed silent for a long moment before finally speaking, his voice colder and firmer than ever. He told Barron that he thought he understood this family, but in reality he was just a kid, and his actions were only making things worse. Those words hit Barron like a punch to the gut. He didn't just feel rejected, he felt belittled. But instead of letting the disappointment consume him, he made a decision. He couldn't go back. He couldn't keep living in the shadow of people who refused to see him for who he really was. In the days that followed, there was no comfort from his parents. Melania, the one person he had hoped would take his side, remained silent. She didn't want their family to get caught in a public scandal. Even when Barron reached out to her, she only responded with cold, distant words, as if he was overreacting. He had never felt more alone. All his life, he had been surrounded by luxury and privilege, but now he realized that love and connection were what he truly needed. And while his parents continued to live behind their perfect facade, Barron slowly came to understand that if he wanted happiness, he would have to build his own path. One day, Barron decided to attend a gathering with a group of young people who had also experienced difficult family situations. For the first time, he had a chance to open up and find comfort among those who truly understood him. And for the first time in his life, Barron felt heard. He realized that even if his family couldn't be fixed, there were still other relationships, real connections built on empathy and genuine care. After the meeting, Barron felt a huge sense of relief. His new friends weren't famous or wealthy, but they truly understood his pain. They didn't judge him for speaking out about his family. Instead, they listened and helped him find ways to heal from the emotional wounds he had carried for so long. While Barron slowly found comfort in his new friendships, his family remained locked in a heavy silence. Donald Trump stayed firm in his stance, refusing to change. Melania, though she didn't outwardly show anger, felt deeply disappointed and ashamed that her son had exposed their family's secrets, but Barron no longer sought their approval. He chose to move forward, searching for the peace and freedom he had never known. He began getting involved in community work, helping other young people escape difficult family situations. He joined charity programs and started realizing that he could make a real difference in the world, not through wealth or status, but through his own actions. Over time, Barron discovered a passion for art and writing. He started crafting pieces about life, family, and personal struggles. His work resonated with people, and the community embraced his words. He was no longer just the son of a billionaire. He was a young man with his own voice, someone with independent thoughts, someone worth listening to. Still, in moments of solitude, Barron couldn't help but think about his family. He hoped that one day his parents would change and understand what he had been through. But even if that day never came, he knew he could still live a meaningful life and find happiness on his own terms. Then one day, at a charity event, Barron met a girl named Lily. She too had grown up in a troubled family, and they quickly bonded. They shared their stories and the pain they had endured. For the first time, Lily helped Barron see life from a new perspective, one that wasn't overshadowed by his family's darkness. Lily encouraged Barron to write a book about everything he had been through, the painful family secrets in his journey to finding himself. At first he hesitated, but over time he realized that writing could be a way to heal his wounds and help others feel less alone in their own struggles. When Barron's book was published, it became a sensation. It wasn't just about the Trump family, it was a story of overcoming pain, searching for freedom, and finding joy in life. The book reshaped Barron's image. He was no longer just the lonely teenager trapped in his family's shadow. He had become a strong, determined man, capable of making a difference. The book caught the public's attention and sent shockwaves through the media, forcing people to see the Trump family in a different light, beyond wealth and power, into the darkness of their conflicts and hidden struggles. Barron received praise for his courage in sharing his personal pain, but deep down he knew his wounds hadn't fully healed. Telling his story didn't magically change everything overnight. He still carried emotional scars that wouldn't easily fade. However, after the book's release, Barron realized that sharing his experiences wasn't just about his own healing, it was also helping countless others. Young people who felt lonely or unloved in their own families wrote to him, sharing their stories and thanking him for making them feel less alone. New relationships began forming in Barron's life. He was no longer the isolated boy in a broken family. He built a real circle of friends, people who cared about him not for his last name or status, but for who he truly was. Then one day, while walking through the park with Lily, Barron's phone rang. It was his father. This time, Donald's voice wasn't firm or demanding. It carried something unfamiliar, something almost hesitant. He said they needed to talk. A strange feeling washed over Barron. He had never imagined his father calling him for anything other than criticism or control. Taking a deep breath, he agreed. Maybe this was the moment he had been waiting for. Their meeting took place in a quiet restaurant, away from cameras and the public eye. As they sat across from each other, silence filled the space between them. Finally, Donald spoke. He told Barron that he was proud of him, even if he never knew how to show it. He admitted that what Barron had done was something he could never have imagined doing himself. Barron was stunned. He had never expected to hear those words from his father. Part of him was still skeptical, but another part felt an overwhelming sense of relief, as if a massive weight had been lifted from his shoulders. Calmly but firmly, he expressed his gratitude while making it clear he needed to feel love and support from his family, not just hear the words. Donald Trump stayed silent for a moment, then gave a small nod and promised that he would do better. Their meeting didn't end with warm hugs or grand promises, but it carried a deeper meaning. For the first time, Barron saw a sincerity in his father's eyes that he had never noticed before. Nothing changed overnight, but this was the first step toward healing the fractures in their relationship. He understood that change wouldn't happen instantly, but at least he had laid the foundation to rebuild trust. After that conversation, Barron slowly came to terms with the fact that his family might never give him everything he had hoped for, but that didn't mean he couldn't start fresh. The wounds wouldn't heal immediately, but he could mend them little by little with patience and understanding. He realized that sometimes forgiveness wasn't just a gift for others, it was a way to free himself. Through it all, Lily remained by his side. She wasn't just a friend, she was a steady presence that helped him rediscover himself. They spent long nights under the stars, sharing unfulfilled dreams, unfinished plans, and the changes they wanted to make in their lives. Lily helped Barron see that even though family could be flawed, the world was still full of people willing to listen and understand. True friendship was its own kind of love, sometimes even stronger than blood ties. One evening, Barron's phone rang. It was his mother, Melania. This time, her voice lacked the usual coldness. There was hesitation in it, maybe even sincerity. She asked if he would be willing to meet and talk. For the first time since everything had happened, his mother was the one reaching out. Barron hesitated. He wasn't sure if he was ready to face words that could hurt him all over again. But at the same time, he knew that avoiding the conversation wouldn't bring him peace. No matter what, she was still his mother. And maybe, just maybe, he should give her and himself a chance. They met at a quiet cafe away from flashing cameras and the chaos of the outside world. Melania sat there, composed as always, but Barron noticed something different. She looked tired. Not the exhaustion from politics or public scrutiny, but something deeper. Maybe even regret. Finally she spoke, her voice carrying an unfamiliar softness. She told him she never meant to hurt him, but sometimes people do things without realizing the consequences. She admitted that she didn't know how to show love the way he needed, and that she had failed to be the mother he deserved. Barron remained silent for a long time. All his life, he had been used to her distance, her perfect public image, her flawless smiles. But in this moment, sitting across from him wasn't the former First Lady or a symbol of elegance. It was just a mother trying to fix what had been broken. He looked into her eyes. He didn't need dramatic apologies or justifications. He just needed to know that she truly cared, that even if it was late, she wanted to repair their bond. With a calm but firm voice, he said, "Mom, I don't need an apology. I just need to know that you really care about me." Melania didn't say anything, but in her eyes, Barron saw something he had never noticed before, a quiet, unspoken sincerity. This meeting didn't erase the pain of the past, but for Barron, it was a meaningful step forward. His life continued, but he was no longer the lonely boy trapped in a family that didn't understand him. He had found strength in himself, in genuine friendships, and in honest conversations. He learned to appreciate the relationships he had, even if they weren't perfect. The wounds of the past might not be completely healed, but Barron knew he was on the right path. He had learned patience, love, and acceptance. Most importantly, he realized that love didn't have to come only from family, it could come from the people who truly opened their hearts to him.